of sharing durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Breakfast Call. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
Hello, good morning. This is Grace.
And of course, we will start our news today with more from Southeast Asia. And first of all, before we resume our conversation about what is happening around the corner in Southeast Asia, back in our backyard here in Kuala Lumpur or Petaling Jaya or even Klang Valley, there's this event which is kind of interesting. It's even a big hit. It's I Wanna Touch a Dog event. You wouldn't have expect like even the idea of touching a dog would be something that is mind-boggling or revolutionary.
Yes, definitely. There was a huge crowd, and then they were also curious to come to and see what kind of event it was held. And then there were more than 800 people who actually gathered on Sunday to touch a dog, and it brought a huge impact and a huge hit with Muslims.
Mm-hmm. With Muslims especially, even those who are clad with tudungs and tudungs meaning headscarf, and those who are quite conservative. Culturally, touching a dog is not something that is very. That is not something that Muslim would do on a daily basis, especially the conservative one, especially in the setting like Malaysia. So having this event, it was kind of controversial, but at the same time, it opened up conversation among Muslim, like what is a Muslim's relationship with a dog, or in this case, if I want to put it in a larger context, with an animal.
And then actually the event started with just a small gathering, for those who are very curious about dogs, and particularly to address the Muslims' concern, about the touching dogs. But eventually it turned out to be one of the biggest and also largest event, organized in just 3 weeks. So it's quite amazing. And half of these people who came to this event were Muslim.
I think that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you are from South Korea. Touching a dog is like next to nothing. I mean, Koreans people even eat dogs.
It's norm. Yeah.
And you even eat dogs, so
it's one of our dishes.
So I mean, eating it is another thing, but touching it is something that it should be seen as a normal thing, like touching any form of animals. I mean, if you go back to the teaching of any religion, animals are considered as something as part of the creation of.
Well, I believe it was touching a dog is sort of like taboo in this Malaysia, especially to Muslims.
It is kind of taboo, partly because we learn in our religious class, which is the official religious class, that the dog's poop is actually considered a very bad form of a very bad form of what they call it, najis, or let's say you somehow touch a dog, you actually need to wash in the Islamic way to cleanse off all the najis or all the bad things. I don't know how to translate najis in English actually, because it's not translated as poop, it's translated as something else.
As far as I know, it's the fur and saliva of dogs. They're considered unclean, so that's why Muslims, after they touching them, they have to wash their hands and go for prayers after that.
But it's something debatable, because there are other people, they also have their point of view that dog in itself is not unclean. Is when you touch the shit of any animal, not just dogs. That's where you need to wash yourself, but you don't need to wash like the way that we are being taught during religious class, which means it would involve some mud and water. You can wash using soap and water, and that's it, or even water in itself if it's just a tiny drop.
But because how the cultural wise it's crafted in this society, right? People think that dogs are very dangerous animal, or it brings harm things to Muslims. So sometimes they mistreat all these animals, like they throw things at them, they shout at them, or they just run away from them.
The worst thing in some states in Malaysia, they even kill dogs. I mean, to them, since it's unclean, why don't we just get rid the whole of them? I mean, it's totally against the spirit of religion, because religion asks you to be compassionate towards animal. There's even a verse within Quran that says that there's a dog that did so many good deeds to human beings that it actually will permitted by God to go to heaven. So it shows that even dogs were respected back then during those older periods. And one area that I think we need to highlight is, just because like certain part of dogs, like the poop is unclean, or I mean it's not just dog but any form of animals, doesn't mean that is the whole animal itself is unclean. It's probably that, I mean, I think it's common sense. It teaches you common sense. Like when you touch something that is unclean, like you accidentally touch some animal's poop or whatever, then you need to clean yourself. Or not, you will be infested with bacteria. You may end up getting sick. So
Definitely.
It's kind of common sense.
So this event, especially, it was held on Sunday, definitely opened a platform for those, especially for Muslims, to come in and experience. It was sort of a new experience for them, and then be able to appreciate and also not to look down on dogs anymore.
Definitely. In certain Arab countries, they even consider dog as their best friends because dogs are a natural hunter. So definitely you can use dogs to hunt food, and is considered halal in some interpretation of religion of Islam.
Yeah. So far the feedback from the event on Sunday was pretty positive, even though there were some negative feedbacks while organizing this event, because touching a dog is a taboo in Malaysia.
One area that I think is even more fascinating besides touching dog is Indonesia. Do you know today Indonesia will be having a new president, and is of course obviously Joko Widodo. He is a very interesting person because of his background, and he definitely has garnered a lot of garnered a lot of fans, not just in Indonesia but outside Indonesia. He is the reason why I think Southeast Asia can be move forward towards democracy.
And then he also managed to get a lot of trust from youngsters, university students, all those younger generations who look forward to have a better future in Indonesia itself.
Joko Widodo is so popular that he was featured in the Time magazine. The recent Time magazine for this month, it shows the face of him and the title of A New Hope. It's definitely a new hope, not just for Indonesia but Southeast Asia as a whole. It shows that Southeast Asian can manage democracy without having revolution or any form of conflict.
Any form of conflict, like it could involve a lot of military fights against the civils, and also the conflicts between government and the public itself. But then Joko Widodo, I think he is bringing a lot of fresh ideas to the society, and then that although most of them are currently welcomed by people in Indonesia.
And today is his inauguration to be the next president of Indonesia, and of course Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono will be has stepped down as well. And we are proud of it because a lot of head of states will be there, including our Prime Minister Najib Razak. He will be there as well to witness his Joko Widodo's inauguration. It's something of an achievement to have a person who is from modest background, who is into rock music, who really go down to the grassroots to understand the society that he's serving. In fact, he is so into his job even before he was the president of Indonesia. He has given a blunt warning to Prime Minister Tony Abbott that don't mess up with our country. we are serious about it. That's what he meant in his message to Tony Abbott.
Yeah, definitely. He said that Indonesia's incoming president, who is Joko Widodo, has promised a tough approach to the issues of sovereignty and issued a blunt warning to Tony Abbott, stating that it is unacceptable for the Australian Navy to enter Indonesian waters uninvited while turning back asylum seeker boats.
Unlike the relationship between Australia and Malaysia, and Australia and with some other its neighboring country, with Indonesia, the relationship has never gone to that level where they can be BFF or best friend forever. Their relationship has always been tainted by issues related to refugees, encroachment of seawater and all that. So these are things that Indonesia aren't really happy about. In the past, Indonesians under Susilo and such, they don't really, they were not that strict towards Australia. But this time with Joko Widodo, he really want to prove to Australia that just because we are economically weaker than you doesn't mean that politically we do not. Just because politically doesn't mean that we would not push ahead for stricter rules or stricter stance, especially on issues that Australians are very lax about.
And also, in addition to that, he told Tony Abbott saying that we have international law, so we must respect international law. And also, he strongly outlined the plans to strengthen ties, including boosting military and intelligence links.
The thing about Tony Abbott is he's also not that popular among some of the Australians because some of his policy is considered not really something that Australian would like about, and he has strengthened the immigration policy to the extent that he's trying to deal with Indonesian, even Malaysian to some extent, to export their refugees to these countries, and also to Cambodia, and it's not really something that Australians would gel well with. I mean, Australia, the same with the US, is a land of immigrants, so they have to accept that everyone should have equal rights, especially if they are refugees, to go to Australian shores. So these are the things that Prabowo wanted. Prabowo is the enemy, the opposition of Joko Widodo. This is what Prabowo said. He said that he outlined plans to strengthen ties, including boosting military and intelligence links, but warned that he would be stronger or on questioning the sovereignty, or even then his army general election opponent Prabowo Subianto. This is what Jokowi said, not Prabowo said. So Jokowi also raised concern about Australia's unilateral and confrontational asylum seeker policies, and specifically warned against the possibility of Australian naval vessels venturing into Indonesian waters without permission, as they did on 5 occasions last year. 5 occasions is actually quite a lot. It shows that in the past, Australians thought that, hey, Indonesia is this corrupted, weak country that has no strong democracy or strong leader, so we can definitely do anything with the country without being prosecuted. But now with Joko Widodo and with our Indonesians getting more united politically, Australians need to be on their toes. They can't act like as if Indonesia is this mafia country that they can just simply venture into.
Definitely. And also
you're
even
laughing about it.
Yeah, because I love your description. That's right. But in addition to that, even within nation, despite the power of the opposition in Indonesia, Joko Widodo, he is slowly exploring and also expanding his areas of which needed to be taken into consideration. So he's slowly venturing himself to voice out his opinion, especially to Australians and also to other countries.
Mm-hmm. On the other side of the story, which is not really related, but Mr. Joko Widodo also has vowed to return his country of 250 million people of its traditional leadership role among the desperate states of Southeast Asia, including by helping to mediate the increasingly dangerous territorial dispute with China. So South China Sea has become an issue that is totally unresolved, even at the ASEAN summit. And Indonesia, under Joko Widodo, they have been promising some commitments. One of it is, of course, they want to be the honest broker in the case of some countries that is involved with the territorial disputes with China. And it's a huge area if you're talking about South China Sea. And with Indonesia coming in, I think what is really amazing about this is China has a huge trust, a very strong relationship with Indonesia. If Indonesia can step in as the honest broker and mediate the whole situation, probably it will be much better than having the US or Australia or even other neighboring countries to be the mediator.
Definitely. And also the Abbott government hardline both turn back policy has been deeply unpopular in Indonesia, but also effective, raising hopes of the smooth start to dealing with the Mr. Joko's administrations.
Mm-hmm. So Jokowi is definitely very serious about Australia.
And not only serious about Australia, but also I think he's definitely serious about his own nation. So to be able to look into the better improvement and also better deal with the countries around Indonesia for sure.
You know, one thing that is interesting about Jokowi, even though he's very strict, especially when it comes to national borders, sea borders with Australia, and also he's not really happy with the asylum seekers policy, the way they handle the refugees and those who come into Australia to seek refuge. But at the same time, he also see the potential of business between Australia and Indonesia. This is what he said about attracting Australian investors by actually list down all the frustration that Australian investors have and addressing them in a more practical way. This is what he said. When investors came to Joko Widodo, they always complain about these 4 areas. They asked about the fuel subsidy, and then they also asked about the bureaucracy reform, business licenses, business permits, and thirdly, they asked about infrastructure. Indonesia, especially Jakarta, is not really well integrated. They always have traffic jams because they don't have very good public transportation, railway tracks, seaports, and toll roads. And fourth, they also are asking about power plants, especially in terms of electricity, not relying too much on coal, of course. So he's sure that he's trying to solve this issue bit by bit in a more practical way rather than just one-off, sweeping statement.
Yeah, and also not only that, he is also encouraging young Indonesians to study in Australia. So there will be a good relationship when it comes to education system. So, he said he will send more and more students to Australia for their studies.
And another area that is focusing on business is definitely Malaysia. So Tan Sri Rafida Aziz, she was the former international trade and industry minister in Malaysia. She is definitely urging Malaysian companies to acquire knowledge and information on new markets ahead of the ASEAN economic community. And it will definitely provide catalysts for economic growth in the region of Southeast Asia.
And also she added by saying that they should arm themselves with knowledge and information before venturing into any unexplored and emerging market like Myanmar.
Actually, Myanmar has a lot of
potential.
A lot of the companies there surprisingly are from Singapore, Malaysia, and other neighboring countries. It shows, and even Thailand now, they want to be one of the best. They really want to tap into the Myanmar markets.
Yes.
So she's giving a warning. Don't just simply tap into any market. You need to gain all the knowledge, all the research first before putting your foot forward. ASEAN Economic Community is one of the very first free trade agreement on a regional scale that is going to change how business would work. Of course, now we have AirAsia and all this connectivity that has somehow strengthened and increased the exchanges of market within Southeast Asia. But for the next 5 years, definitely AEC will be one of the main area main area where it will become a single market, and at the same time, it will be a test bed whether can it work within the region of Southeast Asia, especially with a population of almost 1 billion.
And also, Malaysian companies must be brave to enter a new and unexplored market. And also, you don't expect like profit or benefit or everything to be immediate when you are venturing outside of the country, you know. And also, she mentioned that commenting on the 2015 budget, she said to urge the ministries and authorities that were allocated huge funds to plug leakages as they could hamper their performances.
So in a way that this is also what she said, that if a development budget or even an operating budget, it has to be developmental in approach and strategy to add value as Malaysia goes on, not to remain at the same level. So in a way that she's actually quite concerned with AEC, because at the same time AEC is still very vague. You know, if you want to talk about what will every country get in terms of benefits, even companies, they are still not in the knowing on how it would turn out. So definitely knowledge and information would be the prime power in terms of maneuvering their way through the ASEAN economic community. Another area that is maneuvering its way is definitely Hong Kong. So there's a news reporting that Hong Kong needs to avoid the democracy trap. Hong Kong needs to understand that democracy is a system which, in order to be successful, has to be honed and developed exclusively to suit a society's need.
Definitely, every political system, it has all this historical process, except in the rare cases, like, you know, when the change is imposed from the top. As for this case in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong wanted to be independent from China, and a lot of people, especially from universities, they have been really vocal towards the government when it comes to leader and then the government system in Hong Kong itself, because it's still under China.
It's definitely still under China.
So that's when the people have come to this thought: what is a real democracy, and how democracy can work in its own society and also nation.
The thing about China is it has agreed to have this two system, one country, in a way that China is supposed to be under the communist rule, but when it comes to Hong Kong, it should have its own political system, in the sense that Hong Kongers are not used to the idea that, oh, we elect the nominees for the leaders and then you do the election. To them, it's like we do the election all the way from bottom to up. No question about it. So when this happened, they have problem with it. They are really, really unhappy, to the extent that even the Occupy Hong Kong is still happening until now. They are still trying to negotiate with the leaders, especially the chief executive. At the same time, they are, students on the streets, they are really organizing themselves to go against the police there.
So it's a way of, stepping forward from among these youngsters who really want to look for better improvement when it comes to democracy. Because even though the country, it says we have the democracy system in the country, but then when it's not practiced properly, what is the really point of having democracy system in one nation?
It's something that is very contentious, because when it comes to democracy, it's all about trying to ensure that the power is not as centralized as possible. Now, the problem with now is the power has definitely became more centralized, to the extent that Hong Kongers don't feel that they are safe and secure. And in Hong Kong, it is a business district, and to be on top of their game, they need to preserve the democracy, because it's not in their culture to be under a one-party rule, especially a party like as huge as China.
Definitely. So this business hotspot region and around it, these Asia countries, definitely needs to look at in carefully at the democracy system, and also hope their government actually can listen to the voice of people in Hong Kong itself.
Yeah. Democracy is not an object in itself, but merely the means towards a better life. Therefore, each country needs to ensure that the political model it adopts is one that will ensure economic progress and societal mobility. So, in the case of China, which includes Hong Kong, what is incontestable is that the political system has generated economic growth on a scale never seen before. Such progress poses a challenge to the West because the Chinese companies are becoming increasingly powerful to take on their Western counterparts, even in advanced fields such as aircraft manufacturing, just as India, despite a dysfunctional governance system, is moving ahead in services. So money definitely speaks louder than anything else. Even a centralized nation like China and a dysfunctional governance like India, if they are able to move ahead, then it is not just a threat towards the West, but it's a threat towards democracy, if you look at it in the perspective of Hong Kongers.
And definitely Chinese companies have brought a lot of benefits when it comes to increasing and rising Asian economics.
Mm-hmm.
So but again, going back to the topic where we talked about the democracy, you said it's not an objective, but itself it's going towards the better life. So it is evident to see what's happening in Hong Kong, especially from youngsters. They are doing all this to protest against the government, just to step forward to have a better life in the nation.
Mm-hmm. And definitely the leaders need to listen to the people, and it happens all over the world, not just in Hong Kong. And it's it is an area that is still in evolution, I guess, under the understanding of democracy within a state system. That's all for our news today. We will be continuing with our blast from the grassroots. By the way, Children's Day is around the corner as well.
And don't forget to download our TuneIn app and find us at the3ASEAN.com and listen back to our replays hours, and as well as give us the feedback on our social channel on Facebook and YouTube.